what you gonna do when a
Blood Bowl
mania run wild on you?
Welcome. In any fantasy world, humans, they don't really stand out. They don't live as long as the elves, they're not as strong as the orcs, and clearly, we all know they lack the beards of the dwarves. But in the world of Blood Bowl, what humans lack in strength and speed, they make up in cunning and, averageness. And in the game of Blood Bowl, everything is fair. Unless you are part of the Bright Crusaders team. A team that prides itself in playing fair and honorable and never cheating. Not even a tiny bit. You might imagine how this style of play tends to be dangerous for its players. But do not take them as weaklings. For if the right slightly above average player finds his place in this team of Nuffle devotees, they can and have won in the past not only matches, but also tournaments. Or cups, if you wish to be pedantic. Before we start with our story about how they won a tournament, or cup, let's talk a little about their history. In 2441, after spending years as a priestess of Nuffle from the Order of the Unchallenged Call, Ingrid the Pious founded the Bright Crusaders and spent the next 8 years getting them ready for professional competition. To be recruited to her team, Ingrid the Pious regularly referenced the 32 sacred plays, the Great Book of Amorical football, and the holy guidelines of the Sixth Appendix. It's not an easy process to get into the team because the conditions are strict. But now, let's move on. Good, now that we know our history, let's talk about how the Bright Crusaders won the Purity Cup. Surprising everyone, including themselves, the Crusaders managed to reach the finals of this cup, only to find themselves in the first half of the game get utterly decimated by a Skaven team. For you see, the Skaven were quick, and they had brutes, rat ogres to be more precise. And they were so strong, many Crusader players found themselves to be turned either into pancakes or minced meat. The only hope for the Crusaders, the hope that got them to the finals, was Gerhard the Penitent, a slightly above average player that, you could have sworn was made from an ogre. This refers to both his strength and his intelligence. Dolph Gutman, the Crusaders' coach, had the impossible task to convince him that they should win this last match. Gerhard embodied the spirit of the Bright Crusaders, maybe a little bit too much, and I think even Ingrid the Pious would agree with that assessment. Some of his exploits, and you will like these, include setting himself on fire, playing on a bed of nails, trying to kick himself near the closest end zone for tackling an opponent too hard. Gerhard was a prodigy for the sport, and in Dolph's words, he was as strong as an ogre, as fast as an elf, and he regarded pain as a theory he one day hoped to understand. Now, you might wonder, how and why would a normal man with such potential do such illogical acts? What pushes him to set himself on fire, or all this else? Oh boy. Before he became a Blood Bowl player, Gerhard was a monk of the monastery of Saint Apologia of the Immaculate Piety. Flagellants that were nothing but fleas lived on a diet of their own tears and slept on gravel. But of course, only when they couldn't find enough hedgehogs. Gerhard's fix was pain. Dove managed to convince him to sober up for a moment, and this season he really kept to it. There's no better example or proof than, them reaching this final. But our Penitence star was getting close to relapsing, and that affected him so much that they were about to lose the Skaven team now. To alleviate his urges, Dolph had foolishly let him hire a pair of dark elves that called themselves freelance sadists, who would regularly break things over his head or bury him in the pitch. And that worked until now, because you see, it was not enough. Gerhard decided, at the whispers of the elves of course, that it was time to pay for the arrogance of previous triumphs. Dolph tried to convince him by reading him a letter they had received from Sister Bertilda and her orphans, even showing a drawing from the orphans, which, in all honesty, was a little bit crude and made not much sense, but it had some severed limbs on it, so I guess that works. But here, Gerhard couldn't really recall her, probably from all those hits to the head he took. One of his teammates told him that they had promised to buy her orphanage and save it with the winnings they would make from the cup. But Gerhard wasn't that keen on winning. In fact, now that they had won matches, they had better armor, which meant little when tested by Skaven brutes, the rat ogres, but it was still something. Nevertheless, he saw that as vanity. But he agreed to win if the coach and the rest of the team would join him in Penitence afterwards. They agreed instantly, though seeing his previous extravagant actions, you might not be surprised if they hesitated. But they didn't, and they went on the pitch. When going on the pitch, Gerhard could see Sister Bertilda, and around her, her lovely orphans with oversized caps. But this lovely sight did not help him, for Junkie is always in need of a fix, and he was now in need of that fix more than ever. This urge clouded his mind, getting surprised the moment the whistle blew. What didn't surprise him was a Skaven fan throwing something to one of his teammates. Blood Bowl fans can get very creative with the things they throw, from rotten fruit to livestock to halfling food vendors and made-up contraptions at home. Gerhard would save his teammate, but would get knocked on the ground. An apothecary would ask him how many fingers did he raise up, but that was a hard question on a good day for the Crusader. He managed to get up, but now the game was really against them. Before the break, the humans managed to be ahead of the Skaven, but the Skaven's superior strength and speed would foresee that lead be turned into a win for the rat people. And surely, the Skaven would score a goal that brought the score to a draw. After some smelling salts from the apothecary, Gerhard would have a clear vision of what was happening on the field. He felt guilty for letting the sister and his teammates down. But that would have to wait, because the whistle blew, and he found himself attacked by 3 Skavens, who might or might not have paid the ref to not see them, being rather aggressive with the opposing team. But don't worry, one does not put himself to rigorous punishment for enlightenment and get nothing out of it. Because Gerhard slipped through his armor and ran naked. Well, in his loincloth, but can you consider that clothing? Towards his teammates that were pushing the ball. If you wonder if the Skaven realized, they were hitting just armor, they were beating down a piece of armor, the answer is no. No, they didn't. Gerhard ran as fast as he could. One of his teammates with the ball almost got pushed into the crowd. Normally when a player is outside the field, the punishment falls into the hands of the crowd. Luckily for the players, that includes just a severe beating. But Chaos fans, they get creative, to say the least. The teammate Gerhard saved grabs the ball and continues to run. In front of him, the Skaven team's rat ogre. The former monk would stop the brute from maiming, or worse, his teammate, and even manage to push him outside the pitch. The Bright Crusaders would score the goal in the final moments. And, everybody was happy, except the Skavens that were throwing insults at the ref. Probably they wanted their money back. Hell, even the fans of the Bright Crusaders went berserk at this win, which, as you can imagine, did not look like anything else but politely applauding the losing team. The Rat Ogre was out of the pitch, and thus his punishment was to be administered by the fans. Why, even the little orphans joining the beating. Strange. These orphans have long ears, pointy teeth, and green skin? The poor things. They surely must have ended up like this thanks to their poor living conditions. Nevertheless, Gerhard wanted to thank the sister for giving him the strength to push on and win. But the sister ran away from him. Probably she was too shy to be face to face with her hero and savior. Of course, a professional Blood Bowl player could catch up to her, and so Gerhard did. He would tackle her, and when they were on the ground, he observed that she had hairy legs. Maybe it was winter, or she couldn't afford a razor. The rest of the Bright Crusaders followed him, and as they got up, the sister's bosom was in fact a pair of turnips. The sister wasn't a sister. It was the assistant coach. Dolph apologized and explained the situation to him, that he couldn't really find any better way to convince him to win this. Some more back and forth, and finally, Gerhard accepted their apology and the win. But remember, his team still had to join him in Penitence. They won and kept their honor and principles intact, and so too now must they do the same with their promise. For the Penitence, luckily, it wasn't anything that bad. The entire team just getting buried in the pitch, to their necks. Even their fans doubted their sanity, but hey, Gerhard had it worse. He was buried upside down. They had to stay like that for a month. As you can guess, some did not like that kind of penitence, but the freelance sadists had orders to not let them leave until the pitch opened. In a few months. In case anybody tried to help the Bright Crusaders out, well, the freelance sadists had the best method of persuasion: crossbows. At least the assistant coach promised to feed them and give them water. Dolph, who was also buried, didn't like that. More so when he found out the groundskeeper that promised to mow the lawn around them was the one with 2 eye patches. It is heavily implied and presumed that Dolph, the patient gutman, had a stroke when he found that out. This has been Pride and Penitence. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.